The place was a fixer-upper in the quiet suburbs of suburban Ohio, Columbus outskirts, really. A two-story colonial with peeling blue paint, original hardwood floors that creaked like old bones, and a price tag so low my wife Sarah joked, "It must be haunted." We laughed. We were 34, had just sold our cramped condo downtown, and were desperate for space. Two kids under 6, another on the way, a yard, a basement, a crawl space. The American dream, right? The first night we slept there, I woke up at 3:17 a.m. to the smell. It wasn't garbage or sewage. It wasn't the usual musty dampness you get in old houses with poor ventilation. This was sweeter. Almost fruity, like overripe peaches left in the sun too long, mixed with something metallic, coppery, like pennies or blood. It drifted up through the floor vents, faint but insistent, curling into the bedroom like smoke. Sarah stirred beside me. "You smell that?" "Yeah," I whispered. "Probably just the house settling. Old pipes or something." She rolled over and went back to sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling fan blades turning slowly, trying to convince myself it was nothing. By morning the smell was gone. Sunlight poured through the bare windows, dust motes dancing, kids running up and down the stairs, screaming with joy at their new kingdom. We unpacked boxes, laughed about the weirdness of owning something with a real attic and a real crawl space instead of a storage locker. Life felt normal. But the smell came back every few nights, always around the same time, deep in the witching hours. Always stronger in the hallway outside the kids' rooms. I'd get up, pad downstairs in my boxers, flip on the kitchen light, and sniff the air vents like some deranged hound. Nothing. Then I'd kneel by the small access panel in the utility room, a square of plywood screwed into the floor joists, painted white to match the baseboards. I'd press my nose to the seam. There it was, that sickly sweet rot, faint but unmistakable. Probably a dead animal, our realtor had said when we asked about any odd smells during inspection. Mouse, squirrel, raccoon, happens all the time in these old places. Crawl space is like a graveyard for critters. Made sense. We bought traps, set them with peanut butter, checked every morning, nothing but dust and cobwebs. 2 weeks in, the smell got worse. Now it lingered during the day, faint enough that you could ignore it if you tried, but once you noticed, you couldn't un-notice. Sarah started burning candles, pumpkin spice, cinnamon apple, anything to mask it. The kids complained their rooms smelled funny. I told them it was just the new house smell. They bought it. Kids are resilient that way. I decided to go down there myself. Saturday morning. Kids at soccer practice with Sarah. I grabbed a flashlight, a dust mask, an old pair of coveralls, and a crowbar. The access panel came off easier than expected. 4 screws, barely finger-tight. I shone the light in. The crawl space was about 3 feet high, dirt floor, cobwebs like grey lace draped between the joists. Pipes snaked overhead, ductwork wrapped in ancient fiberglass. The air was cooler, thicker, and the smell hit me full force, sweet, rotten, metallic, like fruit left to ferment in a copper bowl. I crawled in on elbows and knees, flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. 10 feet in, I found the first trap. Empty. Another 10 feet, same thing. No droppings, no fur, no bones. At the far end, near the foundation wall under the living room, the dirt looked disturbed, like someone had been digging. Not animal digging, too neat. A shallow trench, maybe 2 feet long, recently smoothed over. I swept the light across it. Something glinted. A ring. Gold band, simple. Women's size. I reached for it, fingers brushing the dirt. Cold. Too cold for dirt in a crawl space in late summer. I pocketed it and kept going. The smell was strongest here. Overpowering. I gagged behind the mask. My beam caught something white half buried in the soil. Fabric? Bone? I scraped at it with the crowbar. A hand. Small, delicate. Fingers curled like it was reaching for something just out of grasp. The skin was grey, waxy but not fully decomposed. Nails painted pale pink, chipped. I scrambled backwards so fast I cracked my head on a joist. Stars exploded behind my eyes. I backed out, slammed the panel shut, screwed it back in with shaking hands, sat on the utility room floor breathing hard. Sarah came home an hour later, found me sitting there, still in coveralls, ring in my pocket like a guilty secret. "What's wrong?" she asked. I told her about the smell, about going down, about the hand. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she laughed, nervous, disbelieving. "Mike, come on. You probably saw a mannequin part or something. Or roots. People see weird shit in crawl spaces all the time." But she came with me anyway. We opened the panel together. I went first this time, her behind me with her phone flashlight. We crawled to the spot. The hand was gone. The trench was smooth again, like it had never been disturbed. No ring, no sign anyone had been there. Sarah exhaled. "See? You imagined it. Heat stroke or low oxygen or whatever. Let's get out." I didn't argue. We sealed it back up. That night the smell was gone. Completely. Like it had never existed. I almost convinced myself she was right. Almost. 3 days later, our daughter Emily, 5 years old, woke up screaming. I ran to her room. She was sitting up in bed, eyes wide, blanket clutched to her chest. "Daddy, there's a lady under the floor." "What lady, sweetie?" "The one with the pretty ring. She wants to talk to Mommy." Sarah went pale. I told Emily it was just a bad dream, tucked her back in, left the nightlight on. But the next morning, Sarah found scratches on the inside of the access panel. Tiny fingernail marks, like something had been trying to get out. We called a plumber first, then an exterminator, then a structural guy. Everyone said the same thing. No leaks, no dead animals, no mold bad enough to explain the smell that had mysteriously vanished. The crawl space was clean. "Too clean," one guy muttered. We started sleeping with the bedroom door locked. Kids in our beds some nights. The smell didn't come back, but something else did. Whispers. Not words exactly, more like breathing, soft, rhythmic, coming up through the vents at night, like someone lying directly below us, exhaling slowly. In, out, in, out. Sarah began researching the house history, public records, old newspapers. She found it on the third day. 41 years ago, the previous owners, a family named Hargrove, had reported their teenage daughter missing. Rebecca Hargrove, 17. Last seen in her bedroom. No signs of struggle. No note. Case went cold after 6 months. Parents moved out a year later. House sat empty for a while, then flipped a few times. No one stayed long. The article had a photo. Rebecca smiling in a school portrait, wearing a simple gold ring on her right hand. The same ring I'd found. Sarah showed me the picture. We didn't speak for a long time. That night the whispers grew louder, almost words. "Help. Me." I couldn't take it anymore. I waited until Sarah and the kids were asleep, grabbed a shovel from the garage, a lantern, gloves, went back to the crawl space. This time I didn't hesitate. I crawled straight to the spot under the living room, started digging. The dirt was loose like it had been turned recently. 2 feet down, I hit something hard. Wood. A trapdoor. Small. Maybe 2 by 3 feet. Set into the foundation somehow. Old, hand-built, hidden under the soil. I pried it open. A narrow shaft dropped down another 4 feet into darkness. Ladder rungs bolted to the concrete wall. The smell poured up, thick, choking, sweet, rot metal. I climbed down. At the bottom, a small chamber, maybe 8 by 8. Concrete walls. Low ceiling. Someone had lived here. Or died here. A thin mattress on the floor, stained black. Chains bolted to the wall, rusted but still strong. A bucket in the corner. A plastic jug half full of water, green with algae. And bones. Human bones. Small. Female. Scattered like they'd been dragged around. A skull with long dark hair still clinging to it in patches. The jaw open in a silent scream. Above the mattress, scratched into the concrete with something sharp, maybe a nail, maybe a fingernail, were hundreds of marks. Tally marks. Days, weeks, years. The last few were frantic, overlapping, like written in panic. And on the far wall, in shaky letters, "They never looked down here." I heard it then, breathing, right behind me. I turned. Nothing. But the air moved, like someone had just stepped past. I climbed out faster than I thought possible, slammed the trapdoor, shoveled dirt back over it, crawled backward to the access panel, heart hammering so hard I thought I'd pass out. When I emerged, Sarah was standing in the utility room doorway, holding Emily. "She woke up again," Sarah said quietly. "Said the lady's not whispering anymore. She's angry." I told her everything. We didn't sleep that night. Next morning we packed essentials, called a hotel, told the kids we were going on a surprise trip, left the house as is. We never went back. The realtor handled the resale. We took a loss, big one, but we didn't care. The new owners were a young couple, no kids. They said they loved character. We didn't warn them. I don't know why. Maybe shame. Maybe fear they'd think we were crazy. 6 months later, I saw the listing online. Price slashed. Motivated seller. I didn't click for details.